We welcome you to another Sunday School lesson. Sunday School is a gift from God. There are many different kinds of calls. Some are good, others are bad. Some we respond to, others we try to ignore. If you are expecting a call, you may rush to answer the phone, or you may just let it go to voicemail. Then there are those calls that come at 2 o'clock in the morning. Those are never good. Yes, there are various kinds of calls. But this morning, we will talk about a different kind of call, the call of God. This is one call that we all receive that is more important than any others. God's call goes out to all people, but we must respond in faith. 4,000 years ago there was a man who heard and answered this call. His name was Abram. We know him today as Abraham. The New Testament tells us that Abram was the prototype of all who would respond to God's call in faith. He was the first to make the journey of faith, the same journey that you and I are on this morning. Genesis 10:1 says, "This is the account of Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Noah's sons, who themselves had sons after the flood. Noah's sons were married before the flood, for their wives went into the ark with them. Noah's grandsons were born not before the flood or during it. Shem's son Arphaxad was born 2 years after the flood, Genesis 11:10, when the rest were born is not mentioned anywhere. The grandsons were all born after the flood. The generations of the sons of Noah show the origin of the several nations of the world. It shows where they sprung, and by whom they were founded. Genesis 11:10 says this is the account of Shem's family line. 2 years after the flood, when Shem was 100 years old, he became the father of Arphaxad. Shem was 100 years old, and begot Arphaxad 2 years after the flood. The lifespan of the patriarchs, and the wisdom of God in that dispensation, stretched for 3 generations from Adam to Abram. Adam lived to see Methuselah, Methuselah to Shem, and Shem to Abram. Shem was alive even at the birth of Isaac. Genesis 11:27 says this is the account of Terah's family line. Terah became the father of Abram, Nahor, and Haran. And Haran became the father of Lot. Here Abram is listed first among his brethren, not because he was the firstborn, but because Moses arranged the sons of Terah according to their roles in history. From Terah sprang not only the Israelitish nation, but also the peoples with whom their history is most intimately blended in the patriarchal times, the Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, and Ishmaelitish Arabs. Genesis 11:31 says Terah took his son Abram, his grandson, Lot, son of Haran, and his daughter-in-law Sarai, the wife of his son Abram, and together they set out from Ur of the Chaldeans to go to Canaan. But when they came to Haran, they settled there. After Haran's death, Terah left Ur. Ur means fire. The ancient inhabitants of this region were ignacolists or worshippers of fire, and in that place the sort of worship was in honor of their supreme being. Those who lived in Ur were either priests or astrologers, Daniel 2:10, and also idolaters, Joshua 24:2, and because they were much addicted to astrology, all astrologers were, in time, called Chaldeans, Daniel 2:2-5. Terah was a carver of idols. This occupation was a very honorable one among the Chaldeans. The person who performed it was considered as a maker of gods. Terah was bound for Canaan but settled in Haran for unknown reasons. Verse 32 says, Terah lived 205 years, and he died in Haran. The history of Terah is finished in this chapter. Genesis 12:1 says, the Lord had said to Abram, "Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you." We now resume the history of Abram. During the first call at Ur, Terah and his family came along with Abram. But Terah dying at Haran, Abram's family went no further. Only Abram and Lot, on this second call, went from Haran, and so Abram left his father's house and family to go as God commanded. God did not specify the destination except with the phrase "to a land that I will show you." This seems to be committed for the test of Abram's faith. Therefore God promises to show him the way, and direct his course right unto it. Abram's partial obedience at the first time did not take God's promise away. Instead, it meant the promise was on hold until Abram was ready to do what the Lord said. This call of Abram is a model among men, who are to forget their own people and their father's house, and to cleave to the Lord, and follow him wherever he directs them. Verse 2 says, I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. God promised to make a nation for Abram. He will have enough children and grandchildren and further descendants to populate a nation. This promise was a great relief to Abram's burden, for he had yet no child. This was also a great test to Abram's faith, for his wife had been long barren. God promised this nation will be great in all ways. God was going to make a high and noble people, a big, numerous people. God promised to bless Abram not only with material blessings, but principally with spiritual ones. Foremost of this package of blessings is the very special friendship with God. God promised Abram to make his name great. There is probably no more honored name in history than the name of Abram, who is honored by Jews, Muslims, and Christians. Your life shall be a blessing to the places where you shall travel. Not only was Abram promised blessing, but God also promised to make him a blessing, even to the point where all the families of the earth would be blessed in Abram. Verse 3 says, I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. The promise is here expanded. Abram, as the man of faith, is to be identified with the divine plan for human redemption. His friends are, therefore, God's friends. His enemies who curse, or want to bring him harm are God's enemies. Faith makes man one with God and takes up his plans into the divine plan. Our last verse reads, So Abram went, as the Lord had told him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he set out from Haran. So Abram departed, when he was called for a second time. He immediately prepared and got all things ready for his journey, and departed from Haran, as he had done before from Ur of the Chaldees. And Lot went with him, at his own accord, and he only, besides his wife Sarai and his servants. This is partial obedience by Abram. God commanded him to go out from his family, and he allowed his nephew Lot to come along. Lot will not be a blessing to Abram. He will be nothing but trouble and inconvenience. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. Key verse. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you, I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you. Genesis 12:2, 3. Great promises correspond with the great sacrifices commanded. Adam was to leave his nation. He sacrificed relationship. He broke away from ancestral ties and inheritance. Followed by Noah, Abram is the second person in the Bible whom God called forward to serve him. What can we learn from the account of Abram today? Our hold-fast thoughts on God's call to Adam include: 1. There are times when we have to leave our present activities to enter into God's call and promise. We always have a choice, to ignore or obey His command. 2. God's promises are not based on our present conditions, but on His purposes. 3. Our journey into God's promises is a journey of faith and obedience. By faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to go out to the place which he would receive as an inheritance. And he went out, not knowing where he was going. He lived in the land of promise as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents as he waited for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. 4. We may not always have complete understanding of everything. The what, the where, the when, and the how, but we still have to go on. By faith Abraham obeyed and went out, not knowing where he was going. As people of faith, we understand that even after we enter into our promise, our eyes are on what is eternal. 5. One is never too old to strike out on a new venture for the Lord. As an old man of 75, Abram followed the commandment to move into a new area and spread his wings. Though it may have been the winter of age in human eyes, God's command caused Abram to spring up and stand out for God and for the blessing of humanity. Any time is a good time to obey the Lord, any age is a good age. Our thought to remember states, every man is a quotation from all his ancestors. The full quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson is, every book is a quotation, and every house is a quotation of all forests and mines and stone quarries, and every man is a quotation of his ancestors. There is some sense that the word quotation means something similar to is a product of, or is derived from more original sources. We build our houses out of wood, metal, and stone, and these things come from forests, mines and quarries. And every person is, in some sense at least, the product of his or her ancestry, by culture as well as by blood. Sharing the faith of Abram, we are recipients of God's promises and abundant blessings. God also appointed us to become channels of His blessings, so all the people around us will be blessed. In return He will protect us, bless us, and make our names great. Our lesson next week is entitled, The Birth of the Promised Son. Our biblical reference is Genesis 18:9-15. We are truly glad you spent time to learn this week's lesson with us. We hope you are blessed and may share these with somebody else. We wish you can join us at the Cubao Church of Christ soon. Our congregation is a place to discover faith, find new friends, grow closer relationship with Christ, and serve with each other's gifts. Thank you very much, have a great week, and God bless you always, dear brothers and sisters.